الآن يمكنكم المشاركة في مبادرة الأيام الرقمية تحت شعار انطلق بقوة مع جوجل، والتي يتناول فيها خبراء جوجل عناوين جديدة أسبوعيا مثل السحابيات، مهارات من جوجل، أندرويد، فلتر، ذكاء الآلة، فايربيس، ديزاين ثينكينج، مقسمة إلى دورات وورشات عمل يومية بالإضافة إلى مسابقات أسبوعية. شاهد الأيام الرقمية مباشرة على اليوتيوب وشارك رأيك وأسئلتك مع خبراء جوجل، واحصل على شهادة حضور في كل محاضرة تشترك فيها. هذا وأكثر من الأحد إلى الخميس ابتداء من الساعة 9 بتوقيت دبي عبر الرابط المبين youtube.com/gdgmena.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. أهلا بكم في عدد جديد من أعداد MENA ديجيتال دايز. معكم عليان عبد النور GDG تيزيوزو الجزائر، وسأكون معكم بإذن الله خلال هذه الساعة، أين سنتعلم أشياء جديدة عن الكلاود كومبيوتينج. السيشن ستكون بالإنجليزي، وأيضا هناك العديد من السيشنز بالعربي وبالإنجليزي، فيمكنكم الاطلاع على البلاي ليست. وإذا كانت لديكم أي أسئلة يمكنكم طرحها وسنجيب عليها بإذن الله. Hello everyone, Azul Falawan, Aliane Abdenour from GDG Tizuzu, Algeria. I will be with you in this session where we are going to learn a lot of new stuff about cloud computing. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in chat, and then we will try to answer at the best that we can. So welcome. So today, as you know, we are going to talk about something that a lot of users don't try or forget, or maybe they don't give really a big importance, which is how cloud works in a billing way, in that aspect about money, in a financial way. So maybe they go to a cloud provider and then they start using it, and then they forget that it's built on resources. So let me explain you this model to make it easier for you. So let me go back to the past and then explain you how things worked in the past, and then we will try to make the transition so in a way that it will be easier for you to understand. So in the past, for example, I want to host a web server, and then I want people to come to this web server. So what I do, I host my web server and then I pay it in two ways. I can do what we call a shared hosting, and I can have my own server. So shared hosting is cheap. So what happens is that I take one server and then I host a lot of application inside, so they share the same resources. And maybe this will cause a problem because I will not have my own resources as I want. So what I do, I pay for my own server. But here is a problem. What if I pay for my own server, but I don't have the traffic that really uses this own server? For example, I pay for 1 giga RAM, and then, for example, I will bring an 8 core. So, but people don't really come to my website. So that means that I'm wasting time, wasting energy and money. And as you can see, in the past, when we host something, generally, especially for the shared resources, we pay for 1 year. And for example, for servers, generally we pay for 1 month, by month. So the problem is that sometimes I pay for something that I will not even use. For example, I have a website that only works, let's say, for example, Black Friday, where people come and then they try to buy something, which means that my website gets a lot of traffic. Here, maybe I will use all those resources. But what if the Black Friday is over? How people are going to access my website? So my website, I'm paying for something that I don't really use. So what we did in the cloud computing, we bring something new. So what I say that, okay, you take this server, or let's say resources, and then you pay for only what you need. You want 8 vCPU? That's fine. You buy 8 vCPU. You want 60 vCPU? That's fine. You pay for the 60 vCPU, but in one condition. You pay for them only for what you want. You want to use them for 2 days. Okay, I rent them for 2 days, for 48 hours, because my billing ways, I'm billing them in, for example, in 1 hour. We are going to see how we are going to get 1 hour for 1 minute, for seconds, and so on. So the good thing is that I'm going to pay for 48 hours. My website will run for 88 hours, and then once it's finished, then I shut down my resources. So, but there is one thing. When I pay for 48 hours, it's not the provider that comes and shuts down my resources. It's up to me. So that's what we call, let me show you something that's called shared responsibilities. I'm here and my cloud provider is here. So I have what to do and my cloud provider has what to do. So it's not for the cloud provider that comes and shuts down my resources. It's up to me. So remember, this is the most important thing that you need to understand in cloud computing. It's not, for example, for Google Cloud that comes to my resources and shut it down. It's up to me. I finished my 48 hours, I go shut down my resources. It's not up to for Google Cloud to shut it down. So how I am going to do this? I do it manually, or I do it with a programming. So today we are going to see how we are going to use programming, because manually we just go to the resources. I will show you that. We just go to the resources and delete the resources. So remember, in the past, we were thinking I'm hosting my website for 24 hours a day, 7 days in a week. But now with cloud, you need to understand that we don't use this anymore. You need to understand that it depends on what we need. Generally, in the old way, where we are hosting a virtual machine, here I'm paying for hours. And the serverless, that's the new trend. The good thing about the serverless that I can even get billed by second or by invocation. And that's what we are going to see now. So remember, in cloud computing in 2021, 22, I will not think how I'm going to rent this for 24 hours, 7 days in a week, for months or for years. You need to understand that you only rent for your resources for what you need. You need your resources to work for 1 day, that's fine. You rent it for 1 day. You want for 1 month in a non-stop way, you rent it for 1 month for non-stop way. But once you finish, you need to end it by yourself. It's not up to the provider to end it for you. Okay, so let's go back to our Google Cloud. So this is Google Cloud Console, and then I think that everyone already knows that. So the first thing we need to do in Google Cloud is to go and enable the billing. So of course, when you create a new project, you need to associate a new billing account to this project. So billing account doesn't only mean that I need to check about how much money I am spending. The billing account, once you enable it, you are going to do a lot of stuff with that. So for people who doesn't know, Google Cloud, it's free for 90 days, $300. So here is what we call the free plan. The free plan, when you get when you are new in Google Cloud. So sorry, not this. So where is it? Pricing. Okay. So not this one. Okay. The GCP free tier. Sorry. So when you use the GCP free tier, as you can see, you have 90 days or $300 free tier. What does it mean? It doesn't mean that Google gives you $300 as check. What you get is $300 in resource use. So as long as I'm using $300, they are free. I don't pay for them. Or 90 days. That means that if I have a choice, either I use them, I use $300 and then it stops, or I use, for example, $100, but in 90 days, then it stops. So you need to finish those $300 in 90 days. So this is a way for newcomers to the cloud to not make mistakes. This is like a grace period. So this grace period, this is like you can spend up to $300 that you don't pay. So you don't have to make mistake. For example, I forget my resource working, so I can spend up to $300 and they are not got, Google will not take them from my account. So remember, that's the free plan, but the free plan has its own restriction. So let me delete this. Let me come back to the page. So here is the 300 plan. And what do you get? You get the free plan for $300, and then you get something for free forever. Not really forever until Google decides something else. So if you use App Engine, you can have 28 hours per day if you use an instance. But let me start by Compute Engine. So Compute Engine, I think that I would suppose that you already know what is a cloud compute engine and all those products. Compute engine, this is a way that we are going to create an instance. We are going to create a virtual machine. So remember, the free plan, it concerns all the virtual machine you create in USA. So if you create them in Europe, you are going to pay those $300, but once they are finished, you will start paying for what you use. But if you create those machine in USA, as long as you don't exceed some criteria, you will use them for free. So in those zones, so let me show you something. So regions, Google Cloud. So you can understand what's going on in Google Cloud in case you don't know it. So if I come here, so how is Google Cloud split? So, okay, or maybe let me take this image. Okay, this one seems bigger. Okay, here we are. So when you use Google Cloud, you need to understand that Google Cloud is split on regions, and every region has what we call a zone. So once you finish this concept, you can gain a lot of money in cloud use. So let me enable this tool. Okay, here we are. So as you can see, for example, if I come to Central, US Central, that's what we call US Central. US Central, this is Iowa. So this region, it has zones. It has 1, 2, 3, let's say some zones. You need to understand that as long as you create some resources here, you have a free access month, which means that each month you can use your virtual machine for free. But if you create it in Europe or in Asia, right now there is no plan for free forever. But in USA, so what we have, let me come back here. Let me come back to the Google Cloud free tier. Okay, let me delete this. So sorry, where we are. Okay, and let me come back here. So we have the US West one, the US Central one, and not this, sorry. So we have those three regions. So as long as you create them in those three regions, in Oregon, Iowa, and South Carolina, you need to understand that you are using the free tier. The free tier, but in one condition. The first one, you use 30 gigabytes standard persistent disk, which means that HDD, not SSD. So if you create this machine, so let's go and create it so I can show you how it works. So let's come to Compute Engine. And by the way, there are sessions about Compute Engine. I already talked about it, so please check them. So let me come to Compute Engine. And okay, sorry for this connection. Let me check it. Okay. Okay, perfect. Or let me directly open a new window, new tab, so it will be easier for everyone. Okay. So let me create a new machine and show you how we are going to use this free tier, because it will be really useful for you. So in virtual machine instance, let's create an instance. So how we are going to use, we will use this page and then apply it here. So what does it say? It says that as long as you have in those three regions, you can create it for free. And the machine must be an E2 micro VM. So let me come here and let's free machine. Let's name it free machine. And then here, since I'm in Algeria, I will choose not the central one, but South Carolina, because it's at the east, which is nearest than those two regions. So let me create in US East one. So US East one. And then here, this is the zones. So this is the region, those are the zones. Generally, there are three zones with each region. As you can see here, it shows an estimation for my how am I going to how much time money I'm going to spend. But here we will use an E2 micro. So let me come here. I choose the E2, and then I come here, and then I use the E2 micro, which is 2 vCPU and 1 gigabyte of memory. But I can still customize. What I can do, I can still take 30 gigabyte of standard persistent disk. So I come to the disk, or directly here. Either I connect an already existing disk or I create a new one. So let me come here and change. So here, this is balanced. We will not take the balanced. We will take a standard disk, and then I will use 30 gigabyte. And then for the operating system, you need to understand one thing. In the free tier, there is no Windows or Red Hat operating system, because those systems, they are not free. So you need to pick a free operating system. So I will go to Ubuntu, and then I take the Ubuntu, the latest LTS, which is 2004. And then if I select here, I can choose this machine for free. But why it's still showing me this? When you pay something in the cloud, you need to understand that you not only use for resources, but also for the networking. So if I come to the networking, what I can say, I always find egress and ingress. So let me draw you something, or let me come back to the region. So this one, I don't need it. Okay, so sorry. Since I created it here in South Carolina, What does it mean? Ingress, what does it mean? What does mean ingress? I'm here. So if I get to my machine, this one, since the traffic is entering, here I'm ingress. And ingress is always free as long as you don't use a load balancer. So remember, all the traffic, so people when they come and request the machine, it's free. But if I get egress, the egress traffic is all what you get outside your machine. So egress from my machine to a client or from my machine to another region, this is called egress. So egress, this is free as long as it is 1 gigabyte network egress. As you can see, 1 gigabyte network egress from North America to all the region, excluding China and Australia, this is for free. I don't pay for it. So I need to come to the networking, and here I need to come to the network interface, and this one, the external IP address, I need to stop it. Why? Because if you reserve an IP address, you will pay for it. Of course, IP addresses are not free. There is a way how you can access for this. You can type, for example, compute engine, SSH, and cloud EA. You can check this article and you will see how you can access to your virtual machine using SSH without having a public IP. Those are small techniques, but you need to understand that it will not be available for public, but it will be available for you, so you can make some calculation or store some things and download a lot of stuff inside your virtual machine. This is just a way, so you can use using IAP for TCP forwarding. You can search for it and you can have what you want. So I need to disable my external IP. And once I do this, even if as you can see, this is still $7. So I need to come to the network. So where do I need this? And where is that sitting? So this is the interface. As you can see, I have still the internal IP address. So where is the, let me search for one word. So if I come here, I don't need the 7. I need the premium. Okay, where is it hiding? It should be in the network tag default. Anyway, by default, this is what we call the premium tier. So let me show you something important. So the difference between the free tier and the premium tier is that when you are in Google, you have, so let me use this. This is better. So if I come here, you need to understand that all those machines, they are connected. They are all connected because Google uses submarine fiber optics cables, and it's really fast and so on. So if I am here and I want to connect to my machine here in South Carolina, so the premium network, it takes me here and then it enters to Google private network where I'm really secured, and it will be really fast because I will not have a lot of hops in I don't if you remember the traceroute command. The traceroute command shows you all the hops, because to get from here to here I need to enter on a lot of networks until I get here. So when you get in the premium tier, you are not getting a lot of hops and you are getting a really fast network, but it's premium. We are going to see why it's called, why you need to change and choose, for example, from the standard to premium, why you need to go from the from premium to standard. And then we have the standard. So the standard, it doesn't care from where you come, but in the premium tier, every region, it's separate. So let me show you this. So if I come here, the pricing in networking. As you can see, every premium. So let me search. Sorry for the zoom. So the premium tier, each region, it depends from where you come. So if you come from the worldwide, excluding China and Australia, but including Hong Kong and so on. So you need to separate all of them. And of course, we say the egress, but the ingress, remember, as long as people come to you, you don't pay. It's free. But as long as you send traffic, for example, pictures, that's why you need to use CDNs. So what is a CDN? CDN is for content deliver network. So the CDN, this is a place where you are going to host your static files. Why? To not. So let me show you a trick. You need to do this trick to avoid paying a lot of money. So as we said that our server is here in South Carolina. So instead of having egress like this, I need to serve, for example, a website, and then this website has images. Don't try to serve a lot of images from here. Try to find a way to serve them from CDN. Why? Because if you serve them from CDN, you are not paying for the egress for those images. So those are the tricks. So this is the first trick. Or always try to compress them. For example, I have an image that has 1 mega, but I can go to 100 kilo. Try to use this version. Don't use this one because you will gain a lot. So always try to reduce and compress your content when you do an egress traffic. Don't let your website as it is. Try to compress it because, as you can see, the egress traffic in the standard way, you pay for it. So here it is. So as you can see, egress to the same Google Cloud Zone when using internal IP. That's for free. What does it mean? It means that if I am here, so let me zoom, I'm in South Carolina. So if I come here and I have, for example, 2 machines, because we said that, sorry, not here. So we are in 2 zones. If I communicate using an internal IP 10 dot something dot something dot something, that's an internal IP address. I don't pay for it, even if it's in egress. That's why when you create resources, always try to use them in the same region. Always try to avoid a lot of regions. So every time you create a resource, I have my, let me explain you in other words. So if I have my machine now created here in US East 1B, if I create another resource, always I will try to stick with this zone. Why? Because I will not pay for anything. So always try to do those tricks. And there is something else I want to show you. So if I come here, yeah, because that's the same website, that's why it got zoomed like this. If I come to Compute Engine, as you can see, when you have this, it's for free, but you need to understand one thing. Since it's built by an hour, the virtual machine, the trick is that as long as I have this machine running 24 hours for 7 days, so as you can see, your free tier is by time, not by instance. What does it mean? Is that if I run this 24 hours for 30 days, I don't pay for it. But if I decide to choose 2 machines like this, I can run them for free for 50 days. Why 50 days? Because I'm dividing the period on 2. If I want to run, for example, 4 machines, then I can use them for 1 week for free, and so on. So that's the trick. This one, that means 1 single machine. But if you want to use 2 machines for free, you can make them running all the time, but for 2 weeks, 50 days, and so on. So that's a trick way. Or you're going to pay for the machine that you decided. But in one condition, always stick with this type of machine, E2. So in the past, if you search on YouTube, for example, Google was giving a less powerful machine for free, which is this one, N1, which is half gigabyte of memory. But now they scaled for this machine. So that's a good news. You can use them 2 vCPU and 1 gigabyte for free. So this is the first free tier. Remember, the network is free in ingress, but for egress, you need to understand what you are doing. So that's why you need to stay in the same region. So if I come here and then I go here, so as long as you use the same region, that's fine. As long as you use another Google products, that's fine. As you can see, egress to Google non-cloud like YouTube or Google Maps, they are for free. Or egress to different Google Cloud service, like for example, using an external or an internal IP. But there are some exceptions here. Same thing. So you need to understand that not only the resources of computing that are that you need to check, but also the network, especially when it comes to an egress traffic. So be careful. And of course, when you choose the machine, always stick with the standard tier. Go with the standard tier and then the premium tier until you decide to go to the premium tier. For security reason, go to the premium tier. It's the best. But if you want to pay less, go for the standard tier. Now, if you don't want to create a compute engine, then go with the serverless solution. So the serverless solution, we have two. We have the cloud functions or the cloud run. So the cloud functions, as we saw, you can create your microservices using cloud function, but cloud function is better suited for what we call the event-driven programming. That's what we are going to use in a few minutes. Or go with with Cloud Run. Cloud Run, this is for people who knows what is App Engine, which is the platform as a service, but you can now use the Cloud Run and get billed for 1 second. As you can see, the billing, I come here, the first, I will explain you what is this, because you will always check the RAM and the CPU, since you are paying for what you use. So let me come to the cloud function and then give you this, because you always find this word gigahertz seconds, and then you find the RAM gigabyte seconds. So what does it mean? So when you use by invocation, that means that you want to make get or post, so your resources. What is an invocation? This is it. So you are here and you try to retrieve your resource. So this is an invocation. Or another resource that tries to call your resource. So this is what we call an invocation. So if I come here, this example explain it better. So when you get a serverless solution, you don't pay for the machine because you don't have access for the machine. I don't have like this. I don't have an access for my virtual machine, but I have access for the service itself. This is like a software as a service, but for programmers. So if I come here, since when I create a machine, let me show you a better example. So I don't create the virtual machine. Let me directly go to the cloud function, and cloud function is here in a serverless. We have cloud run and we have cloud function. Let me come first to cloud function, and then I create a new function. So a new function will create a container. This is just a container, and the container will run in the region or in the zone because it's a serverless, you will always hear about regions. You don't hear about the zones because we don't have access to the virtual machine. So we just use the region. And then here, I will leave everything like this. So if you want more information about Cloud Functions, please check the other videos. And then, as you can see, the memory allocated, I come here. So in general, you will find 1 gigabyte. This is the standard. But since I'm using less resources, that means that I'm dividing 1 gigabyte on 8. And if I use 256, I'm dividing on 4. And that's exactly the example they used here. So since they used this machine, they divided it on the value that the standard we use is 1 giga. 1 gigabyte, this is, by the way, there is one thing I need you to understand, because people always make a mistake here. We have 1 giga for, this is, let's say, 1 gigahertz, and then 1 gigabyte. There is something you need to understand. This G depends. So when it comes to the CPU, this is not 1000. This is 1024. When it comes to RAM, this is 1000. And this is the trick. So be careful. I know this is a little bit tricky. That's why the giga or the mega or whatever, this is by 1000. But when you find something like this, we don't call it giga. We call it gibi. If we want to mega, we don't say mega, we say MIBI. That's why in a network or in a CPU, we generally talk about MIBI and gibi, or kibi. But when it comes to storage, we talk about giga. So be careful. And as you can see, this is like a tricky way. So don't worry, you will get used by it. So, where am I? You need to understand how the provider wrote it. So if he writes MIBI or GB, they are talking about 1024. When they talk about giga or mega, they talk about 1000. So be careful. And here, as you can see, 1024 megabyte, we don't say mega, we say MIBI. And here, since this is 1000, we say a mega, because a mega or a kilo or a giga, this is a standard. This has been fixed by the ISO. But when it comes to 24, here we say MIBI or GB and so on. And so what we do, we divide by the unit we pay, and then as you can see, we say here GB seconds. So how we are going to consume if we choose a machine or a container with this value, we are going to divide it on the unit and then multiply it by the time we used this. Why? Because the invocation, the difference between a virtual machine and a serverless is that a virtual machine, we keep it running until we decide to stop it. But the serverless, it's up to us to decide how much time it will spend. So if I say something like this, I'm not going to spend it for 1 minute. The maximum that it will run is 30 seconds. So you need to understand that the difference between serverless and the old way using a virtual machine. So serverless, you pay exactly for what you use. So you need to understand that if I type this, I'm losing, because maybe my resource will take a lot of time. That means that I'm going to pay more. So always know what you do. Always try to give the smaller value and then decide if it's enough or you need to grow. Don't leave something like, you will say, oh, that's okay, let me give it. As you can see, I can't even go beyond 9 minutes. So the maximum that I can have is 9 minutes. So let's say I want to invoke it for 500 seconds. You are going to pay a lot. So be careful. So the serverless, let me resume this. We have two, let's say, old school and new school, or the cloud itself. So when we have the Google Cloud Engine, compute engine, sorry, we are going to let the machine run until we decide to stop it. But the serverless, this is a model where we are going to pay by invocation, how much time I'm going to ask my resource, and I'm going to pay for how long my CPU is going to run and how long my RAM is going to hold the data. So here we call it and in 1 second. Since I'm going to use in 1 second here, I'm going to use the gigahertz, or depends on what you read, or GB hertz second. Or here I'm going to use the gigabyte or GB byte, it depends on what you read, second. So if we say giga, we are talking on 1000. If we say GB, we are talking about 124. So be careful what you read. So if I come to the Google Cloud pricing page, you will see that they always talk about GB or giga. So if I come here, as you can see, GB. But if I do giga, there is always another value, which is giga. So be careful. There is a difference between GB and giga, because it's about money. So the more you consume, the more you lose money or you win money. So those are the models that exist in the cloud. I pay for serverless for invocation, or how much RAM I'm using, or CPU, the cycle. So let me show you one thing that will resume everything. So let's say I have my CPU, and the CPU, as you can know, it works like this. This is 0, this is 1. So the CPU, when we say, for example, 1 hour, that means that I'm using this 1 hour. So in serverless, we only pay for 1 hour of the CPU, not for 1 hour of the whole machine. So you need to understand this difference. Why? Because maybe I have two vCPUs. So when I say 1 hour consumption, that means that I'm using 30 minutes of each CPU. So remember this idea. So when you think about, let me explain you this better. Because in serverless, you decide how many CPUs you are going to use. So I have, for example, two vCPUs. So if I use one vCPUs, I can have, for example, 1 gigahertz second. But I multiply it by the number of time I'm using. But if I want to use two vCPUs, that means that this time I'm going to divide it by 2. So always think like this. The more you decide to grow your resources, the more you need to divide, the more you need to do the division. So always think like this. I want to add CPU, that's fine. I add CPU, but I need to divide this on 3, and so on. So the time you consume, you want something that costs 1 hour, that's fine. You use one vCPU. You want to have 30 minutes that do the same operation, you want to make it faster, then here you rent two vCPUs, but you are going to pay the same thing. You want to gain time, add the resources. Your consumption, your money stay the same. And once we do all this, the artifact registry, this is just how much money you are going to spend on storage and network. So since artifact registry, this is like where you are going to host your containers. So as you can see, the first half gigabyte, it's free, and every time you add more than this, you pay for zero. This is not a really big deal. So as you can see, storage is really cheap. So we are in an era where storage is really cheap. So now imagine you want to control this, because at one time you can't, and you can't really control how much time you are spending. You want to automate it, because as we said in the beginning of the session, it's not up to Google to say, hey, I need to stop your resources. It's up to you to come to the resource and stop it. So here, what we are going to do, we are going to check how I am going to stop my resource. What you do, you come to the billing, and then here you enable the budget and alert. So here I need to be notified every time I exceed my budget. So I create a new budget, and then here I say, for example, stop billing. Let's call it stop billing. And then I want to be notified every month. Now, here I want to fix my budget. I say, for example, I don't want to get more than $300. Or to not create the confusion, I have a budget $500 each month for my solution hosted on Google Cloud. I do next, and then here I decide how am I going to get notified. When I reach 50% of my budget, I want to receive an email. So as you can see, I can do a lot of threshold, but the best that you can use, you can, for example, add another one here. And then here, for example, I say 20% of my actual budget, I want to get a notification. Or you use the old way. I don't know if you checked the last session about the health check, when I choose a way to be notified by email, by SMS, or by the application itself. I can choose this. I choose because I have already this channel, and I come here. As you can see, this is the same as the last session, and now I get notification not only by email, but my application and my, for example, SMS or other channels. But this way, you need to remember one thing. In Google Cloud, since we said that Google will not stop your resource, once you get the notification, then you decide to stop the resource that you are using. For example, I get 90%, and then I come to my resource, and then I shut it down. Or you need to make it in a programming way. There is no button here, stop my resource. In Google Cloud, there is no button. Here, we need to program it. So let me create this notification, and then click here. So let me explain you what does PubSub with Cloud Function. What I am going to do, before I talk about this, please, can you add 10 minutes so we can finish? So let me talk about the conventional web programming, and then the way how it works here. You need to understand that in the past, when I want to get something from a server, I need first to ask the server to give it to me. So the architecture about the client server, it's built like this. I need to go to my website to get the resource. But the problem is that if I want to follow something, I want to check, for example, the budget. Here, I need every time to come to my website and check for the budget. And that costs a lot of resources and money and time. So now we have what we call the event-driven. The event-driven programming is that I'm here, my server or my resource here, it's not up to me to come and check. As long as I have an event, I want to trigger something which is a notification, and I get this notification. And this is what I just did here. I want, when you get 50%, which is the event, I want to receive an email. An email, this is a programming function that sends me an email. But for me, I don't want to receive an email. I want to program something to do this. So let me delete this and show you something else. So if I come here, you need to understand that for each project in GCP, this is a project, the project is tied to what we call a billing account. So what I want to program is a way that when I get some value on my budget, I want to delete this connection. What happens in Google Cloud if it gets your billing account disabled? What happens to all your resource? They get shut down. So that's the trick. What I do, once I get, for example, $500, I want to trigger a function that deletes this connection. So what happens to Google Cloud, my resources? They all get shut down and deleted because they don't have access to my billing account. And that's what I'm going to do now. So remember, there is no way in Google Cloud to stop your billing. You need to watch your billing account. Now, if you want to do it in a programming way, so here is the page. So let me shut all this. Free tier, compute engine, don't need it, network. So you have this GitHub repository by Google Cloud Platform. So let me come to where is it? Billing. And here I need to create a Google Cloud function. We said in the session about Google Cloud function that Google Cloud function is built on the concept of the event-driven. I can program a web service using it, but Google Cloud function, this is perfect for triggering, for event-driven. So I want to trigger something. What I do, I program a Google Cloud function and ask it to trigger at some event. What is this event? This is a pub sub. Now, what is a pub sub? It's easy. So imagine that I got a notification for email or a notification from for example, from Facebook. What I'm doing, I'm using a topic. So let's call it a channel. And then this topic, what I do, there is something that is called the publisher. That's why we call it PubSub. And then there are many subscribers. So those subscribers, they get the information when the publisher publish something here. The subscribers don't need to ask for it. They get directly the message. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a topic and publish the information that I got 100% of my budget. The subscriber, which is what I want, they will disable my billing account. So let's program it. So let's take the cloud. So let me go and directly build it from the beginning. So let's create first a cloud function. Let's call it stop billing trigger. And then the zone, that's up to you, that's fine. Let's create in South Carolina like we do. Now the trigger, I don't need HTTP. HTTP, this is a link to click. We saw this in Cloud Function. I need the PubSub. And then I need to create a topic, a channel where I'm going to subscribe. So let's create a new topic because I don't have one. So let's call it billing deleter, something like this. So create a topic. And that's it. I just created a new topic and I need to retry on failure because this is something that we really need. It's about money. So I need to retry if there is a failure. Let's save. Now, in the runtime, I don't need really a big machine, and here 30 seconds is enough. So now let's do next. And in the programming language, you can use, let me zoom. You can use Node.js or you can use Python. Let me use Python since I'm using Python. And let's copy and paste this function. So if I come here, I can use that source code, or I can use directly the one here. So let's budget Google Cloud. It takes me here, and I want to disable my billing account using a programming language. So let me copy directly the source code, and then I will explain it to you. So those are the variable, because it will send a JSON file, and then in the JSON file, it's a key value. So I need to get some value. As you can see, the cost amount and the budget amount. The budget amount is the maximum we put here, which is $500, which is 100%. So as long as my consumption, what I am using, doesn't exceed 100%, that's fine. But once I get 100%, I want to fire an event which is disabling my billing account. So let me come to this page, example of automated console control. And then in this function, as you can see, here is the JSON file. This is just a simple JSON file that you can retrieve from the Cloud Function login. So you can send a Slack notification. This is the code, but you need to use Slack. But me, I don't want to get a notification. I want to disable directly my billing account. So I first install my dependencies in a requirement. If you already used Python, then you know what is a requirement. This is just a third-party library. So I need this version requirement. I need Google API. Yeah, sorry, the Zoom doesn't work. So I need Google API Python client equal to wine. So I will zoom here. That's better. Okay, here, so you can see. So I need these dependencies, and for the source code, I will just copy all this source code, and then I will explain it to you. So as we said, Cloud Function, it always needs two files, the main.py and requirements. So you need to name it main.py. And here, so let me run Google VS Code, so I can zoom so you can understand what I am doing. So yeah, can you please add 10 minutes? Okay, so let me run a new file and then pass this, and I don't need the release note, and then here it's a Python language. Yeah, thank you. So here is what we are doing. We are first declaring our libraries, and then you can use the OS get environment GCP project, or you can take your GCP project and then paste it here as a string. And then we need to get the cost amount and budget amount. As you can see, we retrieved them here. So, okay. So we retrieved them from this JSON machine. Sorry, JSON file, cost amount, because you need to respect those values. So I came here, and then I got them, because since JSON, this is like it is treated as a dictionary in Python. Once I get this, and then I need to build my API. Once my because everything is an API. So I check if it's enabling. By the way, when you say when you find in a function that it starts with two underscore, those underscore, that means that it's a private method. I don't access directly to this. This is the equivalent of private in Java. And since there is no private in Python, by standard we use this. So me, as you can see, those two are private. So what I am calling this function, which is stop billing. What it takes data and context, because this is how cloud functions work. It takes data and context. So what I do in my cloud function, I come here, and since I need an entry point, the entry point is the name of the function, which is where is it? Stop billing. So I come and take stop billing, copy, and paste it in my function. So what happens now when I get, if cost amount, what I am using, is inferior or equal budget amount, I don't do anything. But if I get something superior, that means that I need to stop my billing account, and then I deploy my function. Once it's deployed, I just watch out my billing. It will automatically shut down all my resources. But be careful. When it shuts down your resources like this, it will not shut down them in a graceful way. It will. This is equivalent for Linux, the kill function. You have the kill -9, and then you have the kill. This is it. So let me show you the equivalent of this method. In Linux, we have the kill -15, and then we have the kill -9. The -15, it will wait until the process finish its job, but the kill -9, it will stop it just right there. So when we use this function, we are going to use this because I need to stop money right now. Stop using my money right now. So once it deploys, you just leave it like this, and then once you reach your billing, I will finish this. So my topic, so I need to refresh to get my, because I created first this page, then I come here. I created everything in this. So I need to refresh to find this. So let's say, let's stop money. Something like this. Next. And then I need $500. I don't want to exceed more than 500. Connect it to PubSub, and here I just do this and I finish, and I'm done. Once I finish, I get more than 50%, all the resources will stop. And this is the way how you are going to manage your budget. I forgot earlier to tell you about Compute Engine. So let me engine. So this is, so pricing, just something. I show you how you are going to use Compute Engine in a free way. There is another way, a specific machine that you need to use, which costs you, there is, let me show you this. So just wait. As you can see, by hour or by month, it's not by seconds. Only serverless solutions are built by seconds. So if you see, we have types of machines. So when you choose the E2 machine, you can, if it's running 24 hours a day for a month, you can go and get only 60% of the price. You can get a discount of 40% of the price. And there is something else. When you create a virtual machine that you are going only to use it for 1 day or for 1 hour, the most important, less than 24 hours. Remember this. You are going to not use the normal virtual machine. You need to use what we call a preemptible machine. So as you can see, I need a solid calculation. What I take a high end machine. It's 32 vCPU, 100 gigabyte of memory. And here we say gigabyte of memory. As you can see, it costs $700 the month. So what I do, I come here and let me check. Let me do this. Let me do this. Let me do this. And then let me empty. So Preemptible. So preemptible here, if I do on, look at here. If I do on, check this out. This is like I just reduce it by 4 times or 3 times. So preemptible, this is a machine that runs for 24 hours. So in case you need a big calculation that costs 1 hour or 2 hours, always go with preemptible. Don't use a normal machine. Preemptible, you need it less than a day. So this is in a global way how you are going to save money, how you are going to stop the consumption of your billing account, how you are going to manage your resources. So let me check if there are questions. Okay. So if you have any questions, please ask them. So can I use Google Drive to stock resources, especially if I have professional one? In Google Cloud, we don't use Google Drive. They are the same concept. So let me show you what you need in Google Cloud. You need the Google Cloud storage. So this is the equivalent, because even Google Cloud Storage, it has a free tier. So if I come back to the free tier, always check about the free tier, and then I come to cloud storage, and then here, as you can see, you already have 1 gigabyte free. And then those values, class A and class B, class A, this is delete and read, but class B, this is only read. And you have also the bandwidth, as we said. When you do an egress, be careful. And the free tier is only available on those regions. So if you want to use the cloud storage for free, 5 gigabyte of free storage, you need to host it in in USA, and you need to do 5,000 operation in a month, like write or delete, or 50,000 operation like read. And you don't have to exceed this amount. Okay, another questions. So Google Drive, you can use the API to retrieve the pictures, for example. As we said, because Google Drive is the one that is going to serve the static resources, not your Google Cloud resources. So you can use this trick. But when we want something direct on Google Cloud, we need the cloud storage. Is there any other question? The code shell is free. What are its resource? You mean Cloud Shell? Cloud Shell, this is the Cloud Shell. Let me show you. This is the Cloud Shell. The Cloud Shell, it's free, but you need to understand one thing. Cloud Shell is not meant to last forever. So it's only a temporary virtual machine that can end at any time. So the Cloud Shell, this is done to practice, to do something that you are going to upload on your GCP project. But the Cloud Shell, this is a virtual machine. It's a strong virtual machine, but it's temporary. This is like, it's not even a preemptible machine. This is, you don't know when it stops. As you can see, enable ephemeral mode. This is a free machine that you can practice. You can even access using your application, your Android application. So if I do free, see how much resource I get. As you can see, this is a 60 gigabyte of RAM for free. But, and if I do df to check the disk, and the disk, this is 60 gigabyte of disk. So it's really an important machine, but it's temporary. So be careful. Don't rely on this machine. You are not going to host because it has a lot of restrictions like firewall. This is not an IaaS. This is not an infrastructure as a service. This is just a simple virtual machine that helps you do stuff on Google Cloud. Okay. So do you have other questions? So do you have any other questions so we can finish? Yeah, Brian, what do you mean? But I have two. So the idea, if you can convert your static files, which I don't think it works, static resources to be accessible directly without authenticating, then you can directly use them in your website, for example, that is hosted on Google Cloud Platform. You don't pay for it because the traffic, it's not coming from your Google Cloud Platform account. It's coming from Google Drive. You can, for example, use the trick on Google Photo, but I think they will block you because they understand that you are not using it for personal use, because that's the idea. All free accounts, all free products, they are meant to be used by a certain limit. So if you want to use them using Google Cloud, you need to use the Google Cloud product. Okay, so if you don't have questions, thank you very much and see you soon for other sessions. So